YouTube channel. Today's video is going to be a little different than my typical videos that I make on this channel, but over on my Instagram at theschultznest, I'll tag it right here if you want to follow along. But I asked you guys if you wanted to see how I make sourdough starter, because on my Instagram I have been posting my bread and my pancakes and even the process of how I made it. So I'm going to make this step-by-step tutorial so you can make sourdough starter at home as well, and it's super fun process. It really is, and my family seem to enjoy all the food that I have been making. So first things first, let me start off with what is sourdough. If you've never heard it before, sourdough is like the purest form of yeast. Most of the time when you bake bread, you have nutritional yeast and it's powder, and you put it in your recipe. Well, this sourdough is the purest form that you will ever find, and it takes everything in the air. It kind of sounds a little crazy and a little disgusting, but it's good. It really is. But it captures everything in the air in your home and makes wild yeast, and it's really bubbly, and it even smells a little bit sour. But I'll go into all that to know if you have a good active sourdough starter. And a fun little fact about sourdough starter is it used to be passed down 1800s. They used to give them as wedding day gifts because it was so valuable to have sourdough starters. So for weddings, they would give brides a sourdough starter so they could bake for their family, and it was like such a treasured, sacred thing to have in your kitchen. And obviously nowadays that is not the case, but I have been lately wanting to start and baking more homemade and from scratch, and I have really enjoyed the process. So I'm going to start making videos about that because I am 23, a millennial, and we get a lot of bash about this. So let's start talking and making homemade stuff from home. Let's begin. It's super easy. I start my sourdough starter in this like jar. It's a little crusty, but it gets crusty because that's just how you have to store it. There's a sourdough starter in there. Just because it's down at the bottom right now, it has grown this whole thing before, depending on how much you feed it, and because it will grow and expand. My husband calls it a little pet because you do have to take care of it and know what it needs and when it needs it. So further ado, let's just get right into it. So I'm going to set this to the side, and I'm just going to have a glass bowl for this. You can have a mason jar, a canister like I do, but it is important to have a glass bowl and also a wooden spoon, because if you have a metal spoon or anything like that, it will interact with the bacteria and yeast in here, and it will make it go bad. So it'll have like a chemical reaction almost, and you don't want that. So stick with like a wooden spoon and a glass bowl to help with that. So stay away from metal if at possible. I want to note that when I first started this, I thought it was going to be a very big process, and I didn't know if I could do it, but do not overthink it. It's so simple. First thing that you need to do is get unbleached flour. Make sure it's unbleached, because bleached flour will also cause it to not react right, and you won't have a good starter, and it just won't do what it's supposed to. So make sure it's unbleached, and you just take a cup of flour. Super simple. Always remember that, super simple. So just take a cup of flour, put it in your glass bowl. There's your flour right there. Put a wooden spoon in here. We're done with the flour. Super simple. After the flour gets in there, you need a cup of water now. So just go ahead and pour that straight into this. And I forgot to mention that to make a sourdough starter, it takes 7 days. So this is day 1 what we're doing. We are making the first initial ingredients together, and you just stir that up. So now you just have to continue stirring until it gets to a pancake mixture texture. Make sure you get all those flours up. It's hard because you can't use a metal whisk, because like I said, you can't have metal because it will react to this mixture, and you don't want that. So just stir really hard, and you should get a texture like this. Not too runny, but not too thick as well. So I just inserted a clip of what the texture should look like for your first day of your starter. It should be just like a pancake batter, not too runny, not too thick. And this is day 1, so after you have mixed the water and flour, you can put a tea towel over it and just put it on your counter, and we will come back to it on day 2. And I'm not going to be filming it this whole week, so I'm just going to put in the description on how to do it. But on day 2, you're going to remove half a cup of the starter and add half a cup flour and half a cup water into the mixture and stir it again. Day 3, you're going to remove a half a cup and add half a cup water and flour for day 3. Just keep stirring it. By this point, you should see bubbles starting to form and it become kind of active. On day 4 and 5, do the same thing and kind of repeat this process until day 7. On day 7, you should have a complete starter, and we call a float test. So when you have a good starter like the one I have, you can put it a cup of water and just take like a teaspoon of the starter, and if you put it in the water, if it floats, that means that it is ready to bake. So that is a float test. Just take water and a little bit of the starter, and if it floats in the water, then you are good to go. Again, it is super simple. Don't think too hard about it. I know I did, but after you get the starter started in 7 days, have so much fun with it. I have made pancakes, bread. I've done so well. My family eats pancakes like almost day 8 now. And I'm going to be making biscuits and bagels, and you can do so much with it. So a couple things to note with your sourdough starter: if you have it going and ready and active, you can keep it on your counters. You just have to feed it about daily. But if you don't want to really do that and it becomes such a big task, you can keep it in your fridge and you can feed it about weekly. How to know when to feed your sourdough starter is when it becomes very liquidy and it kind of has like a watery film on the top. You'll see it if you have experienced it, you'll know. Just add more flour to your sourdough starter and feed it. If it becomes very stinky and sour smelling, like overwhelming, it's telling you it needs fed as well. So make sure you feed it then. So kind of just listen to your sourdough starter, not really listen, but see what it needs and it will tell you. If your sourdough starter is healthy, after you feed it, it will double in size. So that is another good sign that your sourdough starter is doing what it's supposed to be doing and it's healthy and active. And then lastly, I forgot that if the water that you use, it must be filtered water with no chlorine at all, because the chlorine is not good for your starter. So make sure that you use unbleached flour and filtered water. And if you're worried about chlorine and you don't have filtered water, you can just take a jar of water, fill it up, let it sit for 24 hours, and the chlorine will dissolve. So if you don't have that option of filtered water, you can just let your water sit on the counter and room temperature and the chlorine will go away. So super simple. I hope you guys have fun with this and enjoy the process. If you like this type of video and if it was helpful at all, I know it's really new to my channel, but it's something that I like doing, and so I wanted to share with you guys. Give this a thumbs up, comment down below if you have a sourdough starter yourself, and if you have ever made anything with sourdough and what it was your favorite recipe that you have made. With that, you can follow me at the Schultz Nest to follow along more on there. I kind of do more daily life on there, so don't miss out. And you can also subscribe to this channel. I would love that so much, and I will see you in the next video. Bye guys.